I don't know about you, but every year as I think back and reflect, I think about all the things that I wish that I would have done, and then also some things that I wish that I wouldn't have done. You know what I'm saying? And so, what I want to talk to you about today are some things that I'm going to be doing differently based on that knowledge in this year. So, stay tuned because I've got 5 things that I'm going to be sharing with you. And my hope is that this will, inspire you to either adopt these 5 things for you or to create a list of your own things. Maybe it's just one thing, maybe it's more than 5. But I hope that this helps you to do some contemplation and think about what's going to serve you in this new year. So let's get into it. Hey, what's up? If you don't know me, my name is Jonna Renee, and I am an evidence-based certified life coach that helps people to feel more confident in who they are and figure out who that even is. And what we're going to be talking about today is going to help you to do just that, because we're going to be looking at what worked and what didn't work in the previous year, right? And I'm inviting you to do that and taking that into consideration and using that knowledge to leverage what you do and don't do in the new year so that you can take your experience and see what worked and what didn't, massage it, tweak it, whatever you want to call it, and then use that as you are moving forward so that you can see what works, see what doesn't, and start to do the things that you need and start to develop that sense of inner trust, because you will have a chance to look around and be like, hey, you know what? I've got this life thing. It's going okay. Like, we've got this under control. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. The first thing that I am going to be doing in this new year is setting myself up with small strategic wins. What I mean by this is whenever we are thinking about setting a goal, usually around the new year, it's something where the goals in which we set are so like big and grandiose that they require us to stretch ourselves, right? So these are known as stretch goals. These are things that are going to require you to get uncomfortable and stretch yourself in order to achieve them. And they are great, right? We love a stretch goal. We love a BHAG, a big hairy ass goal, or a big audacious, big hairy audacious goal, whatever you want to call it. But we love a BHAG. However, if all your goals are BHAGs, well, you're gonna get tired. All right, like that's a lot. Calm down. So I suggest, and what I'm going to be doing in this year, and if it serves you, may you do it as well, is setting myself up for small strategic wins. And so what this does, whenever you give yourself like a smaller goal that is something that you know that you have a very high probability of achieving, and this isn't to say that it's like you're sandbagging things, but it's to say that it's going to require like a little bit of discomfort. Like, I don't necessarily, it's not something that I normally do, but it's something that I definitely can do, right? And strategic in the sense that you want to make sure that it's got that fine line, right? It's going to make you uncomfortable, but you can definitely do it. You can definitely do it. And you want to time it so that it makes sense, right? And so what this does, first of all, and then I'm going to tell you what I'm doing for my small strategic win, well, one of them for this year. What this does is this really supports the broaden and build theory, which is a theory from positive psychology, the research of Dr. Barbara Fredrickson out of University of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And it states that whenever you are experiencing something that gives you a positive effect, right, like accomplishing a small strategic win, for example, then that experience is going to create the chemicals in your body, the positive, like feel-good emotions, that are then going to broaden your horizons by helping you to get curious about, well, if I can do this thing and it's so awesome and I can accomplish it, well, what else is possible, right? So you're broadening your horizons in that way, and then you're building on your experience and your strengths. So like, this really worked, I know I can do this, so I'm curious about what else I can do. And as you're doing that other thing, you can think about what worked in the experience that gave you the positive feedback, and then you can start to leverage those tools, right, to like build on your attributes and your characteristics and your resources, people included, right? So how cool is that? So that is very basic about the broaden and build theory, but it's a very cool thing. And yeah, it supports you to, this is how we grow, right? This is how we accomplish things. It's like, hey, this happened, it worked well, cool. Like, what else can I do? That happened, cool. You can set like a bigger small strategic win. And so what my small strategic win is for this year, I'm going to do a 5K run per quarter. Now, if you know me, you know I do not like to run. I can't breathe, which I guess is a personal problem. I can't, I don't know how to breathe when I'm running, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And my thighs chafe, like just, I don't like it. Could I do it now if you wanted me to? Sure, sure. But I would not enjoy it. And so this isn't me torturing myself. This is me saying, like, this is going to require me, to get a little uncomfortable. It's not like I'm going to run a marathon or a half marathon, even, but it is going to require me to, get out there and do some things. Now, I could train for it, which I am, but I don't have to necessarily, right? So you get to kind of like play with what yours look like, and yours doesn't have to be a run. But that's just to give you an example of what mine is. Like you can kind of play with like what that thing is and like how you approach it. So that is an example of my small strategic win for this year. Um, and that's the first thing that I'm going to be doing. The second thing I'm going to be doing is less and not more. Now, that may sound a bit counterintuitive because you're talking about like doing the things, and I'm like, I'm also talking about not doing the things. So if you know me as well, you know that I have a tendency to do the most when it's not necessary. It's not necessary. And so that can really be something that's great in some areas, right? Whenever you are, really investing, you're doing a lot of stuff, but also, like I said, when it's not necessary, it can be a real energy and time suck. And so what I mean by doing less and not more is that oftentimes if we take inventory of the things that we do in our lives on a day-to-day basis, depending on your season and your life, what we can often find is that like there's space for us to do away with some things that aren't really impacting the bottom line as powerfully as some other things. So what I mean by that is it could be something where you are like, okay, want to lose weight in the new year. And so you spend time like looking up recipes and like that's, part of the meal prepping, when in reality it would just be easier to, you know, do the same thing every week, or to order like a meal service, or to get on a meal plan where like it just gives you like the recipes. And so that might be an example of like I'm doing the most because I'm like, well, I'm trying to make it, this fun thing. And like I'm also trying to like cook and like, I'm really trying to get the most out of it. Like that's great. And we love that. And maybe that's something that you return to later, right? Like I'm not saying like don't find the recipes, but I'm saying like maybe if you're just starting to try to like meal prep, then we don't like mush all the things together at once. Maybe we do the meal prep in the simplest way, like the least resistance possible, right? Like to begin with. And, we put the recipe hunting on the shelf for now. So we're not throwing it in the trash. Like we're not never going to do it. But for right now, it's on the shelf. We'll reevaluate again in 6 months or 3 months or whatever works for you. But until like, the one thing is kind of going, until like the bottom line has, been most powerfully impacted, then making sure that you are doing the things personally for me that are going to really give you the biggest bang for your buck. So that's what I mean by doing less and not more. The third thing I'm going to be doing this year is taking it back to basics. Now, this is something that I always preach. And my words for 2022 were systems and structures. But in retrospect, when I'm looking back at the year, I had the realization that, if I had a defining word for the year, I would say it was recalibration. So you might know that my mother passed away in late 2021. The person I was dating ghosted me like simultaneously. And so it was like a situation. It was like a big, it was a shitty time. And the past year, I have been kind of recalibrating like, what's this new normal like without this person who has like always been there. And so despite like any type of relationship difficulties that we had or didn't have, it, it's different. And so I've had to learn, like, how much help does my dad need? Like, what, do we do with, like, like closing accounts and things like that. And it's just been a lot. And so, um, recalibration, like also trying to, like figure out like how I'm coping and processing and grieving and mourning all of this, is what I would say I did last year. And what I recognized in this and in talking about taking it back to basics, I was just kind of going through the motions. Like, yes, I still went to the gym. Yes, I still ate pretty healthy. Yes, like, I still did the things, but not in the way in which that I normally do them. And so getting back to the basics for me, thinking about like Maslow's like hierarchy of needs, bottom of the pyramid, food, sleep, breathing, like the basics. And so for me, that looks like tracking my macros, getting my ass to bed, and making sure that I am breathing deeply, right? Like in the way in which, like, about, I believe the statistic, don't quote me on this, but I believe the statistic is that we don't use about 30% of our lung capacity. And so making sure that, I'm focusing on all these things, like maintaining or getting, excuse me, back to my sleep hygiene. So like a regular sleep and wake time, making sure that I'm eating, like I said, my macros, like not that I was, eating things that weren't healthy, but I was just kind of like would skip meals. Like I would eat like a lot at dinner, like anyway. So what I'm gonna be doing, using more MyFitnessPal, making sure that I get set up with like a really solid, nighttime and morning routine. And that, I'm focusing on things like meditation, both in stillness and in movement, doing more yoga, doing more, like I said, just breathing, just like sitting there and like being, which is so important. But it's something that I didn't really do so much last year because, like I said, recalibration, I didn't really want to be, kind of, because if I would just be, then the thoughts would happen and I wasn't ready for that. And so I'm not saying that this is for everyone, but I am saying that, for me, I'm recognizing now, like taking it back to the basics, just starting to get into that routine. It might not be sitting in silence. Um, I like to do what I call a sunrise and sit, where you just don't do shit, but you just sit there with your drink, your morning beverage, and watch the sunrise, and then also the sunset. Also great for your circadian rhythms. Shout out to Dr. Andrew Huberman. But yeah, making sure that I am taking it back to the basics in terms of things that I know work for me and things that I know work for everyone when it comes to making sure you're hydrated, making sure you're eating nutritious foods at proper like time intervals, making sure that you're sleeping, and again, making sure that you're breathing in that way. So that is another thing that I'm going to be doing. And the next thing that I want to talk about, which you might have heard me talk about this some last year, but that is savoring. So everything we do, we'll at one point do for the last time. And I started really thinking about this towards the end of last year. And so I started really making sure that I was more present, not on my phone when I was with loved ones, and really noticing what the moments were. I'm starting to get emotional when really noticing what the moments were that I wanted to just really savor, right? That were just really meaningful to me, and that I just wanted to make sure that I remember them forever. Because what if this, what, like, we don't always plan, like sometimes we do, oh, this is going to be the last time, like I, walk out of this door, if you're like going to a new job, or if you're graduating from school, or if you're moving or something like that. And that's like really emotional too, right? But there are also these moments when you're like, we don't realize that it's going to be the last time, right? Like you don't know necessarily when's going to be the last time that like you pick your kid up and give him a hug, right? um you don't know when it's going to be like the last time that you have coffee with a friend. And so those kinds of things, this is very important, this is why I'm tearing up, obviously. Those kinds of things are like the moments that I mean that, you know we don't know. And so really just immersing myself in situations, when I find that there are ones that I really want to savor. And so yeah, whew, that got heavy. The last thing is not a heavy thing. So the last thing that I'm going to be doing this year is something that I will be following up with in 350 some days, I guess, at this point. But that is one more rep. And I know that this might contradict the doing less, not more thing, but hear me out. Doing one more of anything is, in some ways, like a small strategic win, right? Because it's just one more. And so that's really another way to continue to build inner trust with yourself and remind yourself, like, hey, like I can do one more, right? And what this very specifically has looked like for me is in my workouts. So if I'm supposed to do 10 reps, I'll do 11. Doesn't necessarily have to be on every set, but at least on like, I like to do usually like the last set. So if I have 5 sets of 10 reps, then on set 5 of um, the workout, then instead of doing 10 reps, I'll do 11. I had like a brain fart there. I was like, on set, wait a minute. But yeah, so like I've been using it in that way. I've also done it where I will do, 10 reps and then like the extra on every set, just kind of depending on how I'm feeling. But yeah, this can also be applied to business. So instead of, if you're like batching your emails, let's say, instead of like, all right, I'm going to do 5, then do 6, right? Do just one more. If you are going to be doing like social media posts, if you're like, all right, I'm going to batch the week and do 7, do 8, right? So it's just one more thing. And this is something that I feel like I said, I'll get back to you on how it actually goes. But I feel that this is a way to, and my theory, my hypothesis, if you will, is that this is going to be a great way to build inner trust and to build that resilience and that, mindset and that confidence in yourself that I've got this, because not only did I do what I say I was going to do, but I did one more. And if you want to talk about like building your confidence in any capacity, the best way to do that is to do the things that you say that you're going to. And so what that means and what that can look like is, if you say you're going to wake up at 6 a.m., wake up at 6 a.m. If you say that you're going to, be in bed by 9, go to bed at 9. And, this may seem kind of obvious or kind of irrelevant, but whenever and like, I'm not saying don't give yourself grace if that doesn't happen, 365 days out of the year. But I'm saying if, you see the clock turn to 9 and you're like, oh yeah, I was supposed to be in bed by now. Oh, well, then like that's telling yourself that you can't trust what you say. And if you can't trust what you say, then why should anyone else? And so it starts to, whether we're aware of it or not, it starts to wear on our own inner trust in ourselves and our abilities. And we start to also, think, well, like if I can't, trust me, like, well, why should this person? And we start to really, feel bad about ourselves without even really knowing it, all because we just didn't do this one thing that we said that we're going to do. And that's just an example, but it can really impact. And so I wanted to point that out. So with that being said, that is what I have for you this week, the 5 things that I'm going to be doing this year. So giving myself small strategic wins, doing less, not more, taking things back to basics, making sure that I take time to savor moments, and doing one more rep in various capacities. That's kind of like a loose one, but I am definitely doing it on the workouts. So I did today, actually. Also, I miscounted. I thought that I was doing 4 sets of, well, that was the goal, 4 sets of 25 calories on the rower, 25 push-ups, and then rest a minute. So I was trying to do like an E4 mom. So every minute or every 4 minutes on the minute. So like do the work within 3 minutes and then rest a minute. And so you start every 4, but that kind of went out the window and it was kind of just an E4 mom. And then I lost count on the last one. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, that's what I have for you. Let me know if this was helpful, and let me know what you are going to be doing differently this year, and let's talk about it. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day and I'll see you soon. Bye.